Hello everybody, and how are we doing today? I've got a match for you between ByuN and DRG. This is 2 games out of the overall best of 7 from the World Team League match of the Shopify Rebellion and Team NV. ByuN represents the Shopify Rebellion and DRG represents Team NV. This was actually a completely awesome series, the full best of 7, so it's just going to be going up in different parts. Because that's just how people have told me they'd rather it be, instead of just one full best of 7, so that they can watch the players and the matchups that they want to and find them easily when the games are good. So enjoy these first 2 maps of this best of 7. The rest will be coming in uploads in the next few days. And you guys have a great time on what is an awesome TvZ series. Very important match for this tournament as well, because Team NV and Shopify Rebellion are right at the top of the league, fighting to try and get into first place of the tournament right now. So it's a really important set of games as well. Enjoy. It's map pick for map number 2. Looks like this one might have been played ahead of time, and this might be a bit of a replay just because of the fact that you don't see player cams. That's already a pretty good indicator. That's a replay. Obviously, we'll know by the end of the first game when we see the score screen or the end screen. We'll know then a little bit better just exactly what the case is on that one as well. So again, welcome. Hope you're all ready for some fun and some games. But yeah, let's see what goes down here on Pride of Altaris. Let's see what will happen as these guys all get going. It isn't a pool first or anything from DRG either. I thought he might go pool first because he might say, well, you know, I expect you to maybe be aggressive, like, you know, proxy racks me, maybe even, right? Something along those lines. I don't think is an unreasonable expectation when ByuN is playing, you know, on Pride of Altaris. He's just going to open up with a Reaper, though, and I guess we'll see what he will do about this. A lot of the time, I think Terran players do try and help out attack on this map, simply for the fact that, you know, they're playing on a, you know, a very kind of zergy map. Hellbats can still get across the map at a reasonable time. The size of the map doesn't matter too much for that attack. Yeah, it might buy you a couple of extra seconds to prepare, but the size of the map doesn't affect kind of reinforcing and stuff, because you don't really reinforce as much. Maybe a couple Hellions that are quick anyway. So a lot of people try and take a momentum lead with Hellbats, and then if it works, it works. If it doesn't, well, you're playing on Pride anyway, so what did it matter? That's generally the kind of the attitude I feel like people have had as of late, at least when I've seen it. So we'll see what ByuN wants to do here. Obviously, does have a lot of options, and you know what? I'm just saying, obviously, like every 10 seconds a day. I'm just like, obviously this, obviously that. I don't even know why you guys need me here, because everything is just so obvious. So, yeah. I'll just shut up and let you guys watch the game, apparently, on my own, based on my own commentary. Third CC will start up from ByuN, and is going to be able to just get into nice, strong eco. So he's going to play just very eco-focused, which is absolutely not obviously what's going to happen in a game like this. So this is going to be a third CC. You can still help out attack off 3 bases and then have a bit of a stronger follow-up as well. So that still remains an option here, but the general consensus from ByuN seems to be cool. Set up myself onto my 3 bases, get my eco going, and I am just going to play a fairly standard game. That's what he's shown us for now. We'll see if that changes at any point in time. But yeah, at the moment, he is happy to just play pretty standard so far. Maybe just gets in, gets a little bit of a scout, and then backs up. Sorry guys, I'm just going to check the volume here quickly. Volume is just a little lower than it has been, but then I'm just thinking maybe obviously that production might have changed a little bit, so just wanted to check if it was on the YouTube it was just down, or if I do just want to edit it on my other panel just before I mess it up and stuff. Fusion core on the way, and that's going to be ByuN's plan, so it's not going to be all straight up and standard. Yes, it's going to be a strong economy, yes, it's going to be a pretty strong start, but he is going to go into the battle cruises, so he is going to play a little bit of potentially into mech. If not mech, BC, harass, into bio can be fun. I mean, mech is one way, though, that this map has been played. ByuN is not much of a mech player, but I think one thing you can note about ByuN is he will play whatever he needs to play, right, to be successful. You know, if he needs to do this or he needs to do that to find success, like, he will just do it. Like, if that's the way to get the W, he isn't afraid to kind of, well, I say that, but he's quite stubborn when it comes to playing, like, mass bio units and then not teching up a little bit, I guess. I think in terms of style of play, ByuN will kind of play what he needs to. A lot of the time, yes, he would stick to his own build, his own style, and so on, but he was always one that was ready to adapt if necessary. And I think when you're playing on Pride, it is just necessary to adapt. And I think ByuN's probably played enough games here to know straight up bio doesn't work too well. Again, you could BC swap into bio. You could maybe just play into mech from this. Like, that's not what we maybe expect from ByuN, but there's an extra gas already going down. So it is 100% becoming a possibility. And like I said, I wouldn't think it's all too crazy. I actually have seen ByuN play a little bit of mech recently as well. I think it probably was just on Pride of Altaris again. And don't get me wrong, this is not a common occurrence, but it has been mixed into a series here and there. And that's all it really needs to then be kind of somewhat viable, right? You know, to know that, hey, he can play it. We've seen him play it. It's not like this is the first time he's, putting down more than one factory in the first 5 minutes of the game. So yeah, that is good information to have. That's good information to know. We continue along for the moment and see where we're going to end up. There's our battlecruiser jumping into the main base, so first point of aggression. Obviously, DRG not really very well prepped for this. Spore crawlers aren't ready, queens aren't all in the right place. This might mean that he's out of position for the Hellions running on the third base. Looked as though there must have been something there because the Hellions turned around. All the drones from the main were going to the third as well, so it could have been disastrous. Now, DRG, he's already well along with his melee upgrades, so playing a later lair is already very good for ByuN here because it means that the Spire is going to be, basically as late as possible. Because he prioritized those melee upgrades early. And because ByuN's playing mech, melee upgrades are just not quite as good, right? Typically if you're playing against a mech player, you would typically prefer to have a roach-based kind of composition. So this being mech, playing lings and melee upgrades really isn't ideal, quite frankly. So we'll see if it is changed at some point. We'll see if DRG is going to back away from that and go elsewhere. He sees the factories now, so he knows for sure what's going on. Has full confirmation now of exactly what's happening. There's those 5 SCVs going down. Nice little run by, because again, gets the scout and it gets damage done, and that's not always the case, right? So, again, that little bit of extra info. 15 SCVs actually went down in the end, so there's a bit of harassment on the third base, but not watching. Sorry, guys, again, I'm working off the clean feed, so don't shout at me about the observing for once. Usually I am the bad observer, yes, but this time it ain't my fault, okay? BC teleports back home. DRG is actually quite low on supply, but I guess he's stacking money ready for the Spire to be done. He is going to go mutas. Still haven't seen if he wants to switch into roaches or anything on kind of like a follow-up to all of this, so still kind of waiting on that one to be figured out as BC gets pushed away by these queens. And mutas are one of these things, though, where, I mean, in this case, they should be able to kill this BC because it has no teleport away. But the mutas aren't immediately kind of the strongest setup, and there's nothing on the ground to stop these Hellions, so they're going to come through and they're going to kill this mineral line. Mutas are actually going to busy themselves with the Hellions for a while, so it gives the BC a little while longer to maybe get closer to actually having an opportunity to make something of this, right? Because now BC is actually very close to having teleport compared to before. It had no chance. I don't think it's quite... Well, actually, the mutas aren't going after the BC, so he's just ignoring it. Maybe that BC actually gets out alive, which would be pretty impressive, all things considered, after what we'd been seeing there. There's the BC just join up and sit on that third base. The couple of missile turret shots with the Thor are enough to scare those Mutalisks away once again, so they get chased back up the right side of the map. A couple factories on the way in still. The Thor again still in production. The Yamato cannon all producing right now, so all of this being brought up into play. And we have got this BC showing up again. There's going to be a few drones going down already. A couple of queens will take some damage, so BC, again, wasn't chased down by the mutas, and now it gets to get a little bit more damage done and teleports away, so it gets to stay alive, and yeah, I'm surprised the DRG didn't go after it sooner. Hellions will get rid of some of the creep, and like, I'll just say that so far, ByuN has been doing a pretty good job of containing a lot of this creep spread. So he's been doing a really good job of just keeping DRG back, and just stopping him from really kind of having control of the map. DRG did, by the way, double down into melee upgrades, so there was a while where playing Ling Bane against mech was a thing, and it was kind of that idea of typical Ling Bane, where it's like, kind of like Ling Bane versus Protoss, where it's like, I'm just going to throw units at you repeatedly, I'm going to try and hurt your economy, and if I can shut down enough eco, I can just take the map, with my fast army composition, you never get a chance to move across and all of that, right? But this is one of those situations right now where I just don't feel as though we're really headed in that direction for DRG. He doesn't have the creep to take over the map. There's already a lot of Thors on the way up, which are going to help a lot against the mutas. I do think there's a pretty reasonable shot for ByuN to get across the map here sooner rather than later, and yeah, that could be a pretty huge deal, all things considered right now. If he can get across the map, his army 100% is looking good to fight. Army supply currently up at 82 to 89. DRG does have nigh on 100 drones, just hasn't really been putting them to use yet. So that's something else we gotta keep our eyes open for, seeing if that drone count is gonna get any higher. I say not quite putting them GCI, he does have 5 bases, so they do have kind of a home. But now that we're maxed, obviously DRG will start to build a bank, and this is where you trade, you rebuild, you go again, and that's kind of the repetition that we're expecting here. Aliens and the Thors will make a move forward a little bit. We still have these BCs as well. Don't forget about those. Mutas are meant to be kind of the replacement for the Corruptors, which are a very reliable way to trade out with BCs over time. Typically the BCs, you know, Yamato, a Corruptor 2 is hold that Thor, because this fight's actually going to happen. The Bane's coming forward here. The BCs will teleport in to help. A couple of Thors are putting a lot of splash on these Mutas. If the BCs can just get a reasonable chance to follow up from here, with there being 3 of them, then that actually looks pretty promising, no? We line up another Yamato, and this Overlord's going to go down. Yeah, ByuN lost a lot. I don't think he was quite ready for that fight to happen out in the center. DRG did a good job of kind of jumping on him, and yeah, ByuN was, you know, very far forward. I think just a little bit more preparation time. Good catch from DRG to jump in there. I'd love to see, I think we just missed the resources lost, or I just missed seeing the resources lost in the bottom right. Just love to see how we're trading so far, if that was good enough for DRG. Just get a kind of rough read in terms of how these guys are kind of trading blows so far. Maulings around the left, and just going to have the Hellions. He actually will run into all of these Zerglings, so we'll be able to chunk through a few of those. Missile turret's going to be imperative to try and buy time to get units in position to defend these mineral lines. One Muta actually went down there. We are going to lose the armor with the +3 weapons. It's just sad because obviously the Thors would have got that much better, would have dealt with Mutas that much more easily. It's continuing to build Mutas. The thing is, once you can deal with these Mutas, the Mutas really ain't good, but until you can deal with them properly, they're going to run around bases silly, as we're seeing right now, and have a very good time. But this is a lot of Thors, and we lose 1 Thor right now, but the Mutas are honestly not standing very strong. We get a bunch of Yamatos off as well, and feels like ByuN has a great time. All of a sudden, DRG has to rebuild 16 Mutalisks. That's so expensive. Resources lost. A little bit worse for DRG, but only in the gas. Actually hasn't been all that bad for him, all things considered, I would say. Maybe we would have expected that to be a little bit worse by now, but yeah. Okay, well, kind of a interesting game still, because ByuN's not exactly kind of winning these fights and able to run across the map and do much with it. These Banes going to be under some attack. How much attention is ByuN paying? Enough to get the SCVs away. This is a missile turret there. Important that you don't lose too many SCVs in these scenarios. He's already on 61 SCVs. Any more losses, and he just isn't quite going to have the income he needs to keep on heading towards being maxed. And that's exactly what DRG is aiming for. That's where DRG can tip the scales and take a pretty big lead from this. As this army will go down, he just killed a call down supply depot, so that's 2 depots for the price of 1. As that's another armory going down again. It's a ridiculous Mutalisk count. Just in a straight-up fight, they shouldn't really be very good. It's just, again, finding the chance to get a straight-up fight in this kind of situation. And, well, there goes the main. And, yeah, 13 SCVs. ByuN just kind of ended up running around silly after this. And DRG, he's now been able to get set up across the map, too. He's got kind of all the bases he wants. He's got the gold base online. I guess he really only just got the extra gold base, and that was kind of the one difference being made. But it just feels as though he's going to have that little extra bit of income just to keep him very safe here. This is a lot of Banes. What are we going to go for? Well, that wasn't exactly brilliant. We are just going to, again, rebuild instantly. That's the power of DRG's economy right now. So seemingly that is his plan. 15 more Mutas again. Jeez, I mean, I actually can't quite get over how much gas he must be spending here. It's a very expensive day so far for DRG, but again, he's had the economy to keep it going. ByuN only has 46 SCVs now, so doesn't quite have the economy he had before. But this is, I think, the scariest part, right? Like I've been saying throughout, if you can find a straight-up fight, it's not going to really be good for DRG. DRG is already looking to counterattack, and maybe his overall plan here is just a base trade. Maybe he's never had a plan just to straight-up, trade with this. Which, again, I wouldn't blame him for, because I don't think you necessarily want to be trading here. There goes the command center, so that will fall. I was going to see the SCVs escaping down to the south side. Just going to head on over there. Battlecruiser's putting a bit more damage out. I mean, full-on base trade mode, but Mutas are such an amazing unit in a base trade. ByuN needs to get the money to maybe even build something across the map that he can camp out on or so. In fairness, his BCs are having a good time. I wonder if they can fight this amount of queens. They have +2 vehicle plate, which would definitely help. Queens, I don't believe, have too much. The BCs teleport back over here, just towards the Thors. And DRG actually gave up on base trade, and he's actually brought everything, well, all the mutas back. He's got 70 Lings on the way. Apparently, he needs to rebuild the Bane Nest, but Lings alone right now could just be deadly if there's not enough to deal with it. The muta's obviously very spread out going into this fight. It looks, I believe, as though DRG is going to have enough for this. Yes, he is. GG's, and DRG does take game number 1 here off of ByuN and the Shopify Rebellion. Kind of as expected, honestly, because it's Pride of Altaris. ByuN put up a reasonable fight. And we saw that in the Cast of Civil War, especially against Raynor and Serral. It worked against Raynor. It didn't really work against Serral, but it definitely made the game closer than it maybe should have been after a rough start. But yeah, basically, as DRG is in the top left-hand side of Curious Minds from Team NV. First game on the board for them today, as in the bottom right from Shopify Rebellion, it is ByuN. But yeah, I think Curious Minds is a good one because ByuN knows even if it doesn't go well early when it's meant to be good for him, he can turtle up on this map nicely because of the lack of bases. The Zerg can run into trouble ending the game against a Terran. That obviously creates some issues. Lazy Sapien, how you doing? Thank you so much for the 13-month resub. Feels good, man. Thank you so much for the resub. Appreciate it. Thanks for continuing to come on back. Let's see what's going to go down in game number 2. I'm interested. It's kind of straight up proxy racks. it's an interesting one where it's your kind of map pick, right? It's the kind of map you want to be playing on, right? I mean, in theory. And then you decide to proxy racks on it. So we'll see how this does. Strong position, pretty close to the Zerg's natural. And on top of being close to the Zerg's natural, it's just very difficult for drones to deny these barracks because they're right up against the walls. So the surface area where the SCVs can hide and be very safe is huge, especially because then they cover each other as well on the side. So it definitely makes a little bit of a problem in that regard. I wanted to talk quickly about where these two teams are at in the World Team League right now, in case you're just not quite aware of the standings and so on. So they're both right up at the top. In fact, they're tied, 15 points each, both 5-1. Their plus 21 map score for Team NV is the tiebreak winner over the plus 17 of the Shopify Rebellion. These two teams make up the top 5, and top 5 really are a step away from top 6 in this league. So they're looking very comfortable for playoffs. It's really just dueling for the chance to play, deeper in the playoffs, right? Every, place you finish higher up in the group is that much stronger for you. So yeah, pretty important match. Try and maybe sneak into top 4 and really kind of set a precedent there. Win against these top teams is going to do a lot for you in those circumstances. And a lot of these top team matches are going to be going very interestingly as ByuN kites away beautifully and deals with this. Does not have a bunker finished though, as this proxy racks is, for now, going to be halted in terms of the bunker at least, but his Ling's actually in some trouble, and ByuN's doing a good job trading. If nothing else, he's actually traded very well here so far, so he's finding some pretty reasonable value around the map. More Marines and going to try and get themselves a queen there. That's obviously quite hopeful thinking, but if DRG messed up, didn't move back in time, it could have been it could have been a thing. Gonna just try and keep the pressure up where he can, but he realizes time is ticking away and it's not going to be able to last forever here. And Sprax is just going to fly on forward. Have a little bit of a scout in. Just going to see the queens and stuff and probably say, yeah, not much I can do here unless he believes he can dive a queen. I just don't think that opportunity is really there at all. There's not that many Lings still up the ramp, I suppose. Oh, there's the rest of them coming in from a bit deeper in the base. Oh, well. Krax will just end up scouting, then ByuN moves into Hellions and a starport. Hellion drop usually very popular in these scenarios, and as something of a follow-up. So maybe that's something we'll get to see here. Just going around the side, just going to put some more damage onto this hatchery, which is taking quite a bit of damage. And the Queen's coming over, just going to put some more damage on those Marines, which are going to get chased away back up to the high ground. Not going to be able to find a chance to do much else for now. how's the total score fallen for the hexagons? There's another set of stats that isn't on like the shared hexagon page, or at least there was last season, and they make up 40 points, and then you add the 6 points from the hexagon, and it's 100. But I'm not sure if they're displayed this season. I don't know if I've seen them actually, but that's generally how it worked last time. Which is pretty much all I can tell you about for now, at least. I would assume it's the same, and I've just not noticed it because those stats aren't quite the most interesting. We'll have a Viking up the top, gonna go in after an Ovi. Make our way through this. Banshee and Cloaking is on the way out, so ByuN bringing the Banshee into play here. Viking gets the Overlord, DRG will be supply blocked. Just gonna see our melee upgrade starting from DRG as well, so when you look at the start, DRG is down on supply. He's just about ahead on workers. His army supply is down a little bit. He does end up with a faster 1-1 here, but again, that comes at other expenses. It's not like that's for free. It comes at a later lag, comes at later other tech, right? Alien speed, for example, will be very delayed in comparison, so yeah, the 1-1 being faster is nice, but it isn't the be-all and end-all. This is going to be a dead queen here. I don't think we can save this. We dive. There was no transfusion energy on any of the other queens, so yeah, dead queen. That's always a nice little W. Banshee shows up as well, and guess what? No Spore or anything, and the queens have all been chasing to the front to deal with the Hellions, so Banshee can have a pretty fun time here. Just, he does have Cloak as well, but there's not even anti-air here just yet. And remember, there's no lair either, so not like we can have an Overseer of detection. We're actually going to start fighting the Queen, but there's so many drones that are one-tappable. I was going to say I'd rather we just start getting some of those. We actually do leave a lot of those drones on low HP. My heart skipped a beat there a little bit. I was like, everything just went black all of a sudden, and obviously I have like my own preview mount on the right side, which went black too, so it was like my entire screens just went completely black. Looks like the scene feed is having a couple of problems here, guys, and we will just give it a moment, try and recover. Let me check the Twitch stream and see if the Twitch stream is having similar issues. No. So let's just watch from here for now. This is going to be seen, obviously the Banshee harassment continues. 10 drones going down, the Hellions helping out for a little bit as well. So doing a pretty good job across the board of just dishing out some damage here. The Queens do come through, pushing those Hellions away. And this Banshee just going to come looping around the side once more. Pick away at these few drones. And again, just trying to find damage wherever available. 14 drones now dead, and I mean, it doesn't matter about the map or anything. Just straight up, the damage that ByuN is finding early game is turning into a lot. I mean, this is really going to be tough for DRG to recover from. He does still have faster melee upgrades. That doesn't matter at all if he doesn't have the units to bring those melee upgrades into play, right? Yeah, having, you know, 1-1 helps, but if all the Lings die before any Lings can get a wraparound, it doesn't really matter. So, let's see. Things on the counterattack. I like that, obviously, when you're kind of down in numbers, counterattacking, shutting off reinforcements is one way you can make this work. Stop the reinforcements getting here. If you stop the reinforcements getting here, then obviously there is a chance to... Well, yeah, if you stop the reinforcements getting here, there really is then going to be that chance to say, right, let's do this then. Let's kind of, you know, take on the larger fight. Your army's not gone that much bigger. Here we go again. A couple of Hellions will help a lot with this, especially when this is not any Banelings. It's just Lings, and I mean, this is going to get cleaned up eventually. It's just so expensive, though, for DRG. It comes at such a huge cost. So, not exactly ideal at the moment. And yeah, I can't imagine that this is going the way he wants it to at all. Plain and simple. Got to say, we expect this to maybe be a ByuN 1-1 scoreline, maybe. But what can DRG do? He will still have a 2-2 upgrade lead. So maybe with 2-2 you can find some good fights, find some good counterattacks that you can overwhelm him more easily because it is an upgrade lead for him. I think his advantage really plays around the upgrades. It's got to play around upgrades and counterattacks. You know, big fights aren't going to be great for him because he doesn't even have that much creep spread. So counterattacking, all that kind of stuff is, I think, the biggest kind of goal right now. Oh, now the Twitch stream decides to die. Cool, cool. I wonder if both streams died and then it just got better in the time we swapped from YouTube to Twitch. It is very possible that is kind of what happened. Is, oh, hey, that's nice. Finds a couple of tanks. I mean, this is great, right? You get rid of the splash damage kind of for free. I mean, yes, that's another tank as well. If you take out the splash damage, then you actually can have a better composition to utilize here. So that's something that could potentially go down. It's going to be an extra command center and 3 additional barracks in production, by the way. So, and all that set up as the Marines will lift into the medevacs to escape away. And still chasing up here. These couple of Banes getting blown up. Marines do help to get rid of them. This time it was a good defense from ByuN, and he's not losing too much else. DRG just still doesn't have a good drone count or anything. As these libs, one of the 2 go down. 59 drones means he's just not rebuilding enough. He's not trading well, of course. 2-2's finally kicking in, so fights like this should be a lot better for DRG, a lot more manageable. It's just, again, is it enough to overcome all the deficits he's already playing from? Probably not just yet. I mean, that's really the tough part, and I think he did have some of the right ideas. You know, I said I wanted to see some counterattacks. He tried counterattacking. You know, he tried to play fairly aggressively. Just honestly tough situation where ByuN's defense kind of improved. The first one started to do some good damage, like I say, cutting down that tank count, and that might have already saved him a little bit. You know, that might... Oh, this triple engineering bit, didn't realize that. That might have already saved him a little bit in the sense of, hey, look, like, you know, if he hadn't gotten rid of those tanks, maybe ByuN would already be across the map with tanks in position, and maybe DRG just dies. So, I think he's already buying himself some time. At the same time, maybe ByuN at least wants to wait for +2 attack before he goes into a larger fight, because he knows that +2 attack upgrade will just even things out a lot. Even if he doesn't have the armor before the engagement, the attack upgrade alone will just help him dish out that extra damage, and maybe that's what he's going to play around. Or maybe he does wait for 2-2. We'll see his 4th base moving in position. He probably doesn't feel too pressured just yet. Maybe when the 4th is a planetary, then we can start making the larger move out. And that's what we're looking for, that larger move out of bio units, the tanks with it, instead of just these couple of drops here and there. Things in the Banes coming through, and the Marines have to lift up and escape out of there. We stem forward with these other Marines, a couple of drones going down. Big Bane connection at least gets rid of this attack. So, for once, DRG is actually able to cult this without taking too much damage, arguably. It's still not pretty, guys. I mean, if you're looking at the supplies, well, I can't I can't tell you what isn't there, right? I mean, the supplies kind of say, hey, look, this is not looking good for DRG, and supplies are a very good indicator of who is in a good spot or not in this matchup especially. So it's tough. And again, a lot of it's just low drone count this entire time. He's never really been above 70 workers, which again in ZVT in this later game for base Terran, it just isn't good enough. You want 80, 90 drones sometimes. The way your army trades just doesn't allow you to trade off of 67 drones and then replace it and go again and get reset. It's just the way the matchup works. Those 3 attack starts. All 3 engineering bays working together to get all 3 the 3rd attack upgrade. Turns out you don't need 3 engineering bays to get the +3 upgrade. It's only if you want to get 3 different upgrades at once, though, guys. So just an FYI, don't go building the triple engineering bays in most of your games. As 4 SCVs do fall, this little counterattack again. Probably the best thing that DRG can do, trying to avoid the larger straight-up fights. ByuN leaves, I mean, still has just a fair amount on the top side. DRG's coming across with even more, and ByuN sees it with an empty medevac. It's kind of a big deal, because now at least he knows this is coming in, and he can adjust and reposition for it. DRG looked as though he wanted to make a play over here, but he decided to disengage, which meant he was just in tank fire, and that's just free damage dealt by ByuN. Almost maxed out here. ByuN is just looking so good to potentially just make this 1-1, and set us up for good set of games perhaps in our World Team League today. Obviously would love to see this one. Maybe even go to a little cheeky ace match. Is that too much to ask? I don't think so. I think it's a fairly reasonable request. He's going to come running through in this group of bio. Trying to get away from here. The tanks firing up a storm. The few Bailey's still trying to crash on forward, and the bio force is just kiting for days. Eventually lifts up and is going to move elsewhere. These trades have been pretty good, I think, for for ByuN. As we're being shown, and again, that's part of the issue, is that you can't really keep up with the efficient trades of the Terran player over the entire course of the game. You're being denied bases, so ByuN still being active all around the map, hitting different locations, not being predictable with his attacks. That obviously makes it even more difficult as well to deal with. And these are all, again, just continued problems at this stage. More DRG. Lings and Banes come through the bottom side, and the Bioforce of ByuN gets over here to push the Ling Bane back. Bioforce comes through, and there's a few creep tumors that are going down as well as we push up that left-hand side, just clearing out the creep, opening the space a little bit. Ling's going to go running on the right side, and the SCVs pull pretty quickly to get a repair. Now, there's not a lot of Banes, so you can actually repair for a while. Target fires the Banelings. Really doing a good job of keeping that base alive as long as possible. DRG is taking a way better set of fights here than expected. I mean, 23, 25, I mean, so many SCVs. His bottom base took some losses as well. That wasn't all on the right side. Oh, wow, what a strike from DRG as he continues on the right side. This force was held off for a while. I gotta say, ByuN played pretty well on that right-hand side to be able to kind of, you know, stay alive as long as possible. Targeted down those Banes, like I said, let the SCVs repair as long as they could. Eventually, obviously, didn't matter. That base fell anyways, but it was a real attempt to not let it go down. And DRG, you know, goes for the larger fight with the Ultras at the same time. Now ByuN slows it down a second and gets a few ghosts going. Obviously, as Pence had his eco kind of set back a little bit, though, from where he would have originally liked to have had it. So, definitely notable as we do see our CC just in the sky. Ling Bane Ultra Viper coming through, and he's going to continue to chase down some of the SCVs. So, going in after those as we see the Parasite bomb going off, and Artifacts having to escape out of that. Here comes another wave from DRG just to try and bust this down. Couple ghosts in the front surviving, and obviously these ghosts will be useful to snipe down the Ultras. That's where ByuN is going to find a lot of his economy. Sorry, not a lot of his economy, a lot of his efficiency from here on out. I was just looking at that tank that just got saved. The if you didn't see, the Planetary Fortress got the final shot on the Lings just before the Lings killed the tank. So that tank has a Planetary Fortress to thank for its survival, which was kind of amusing. So tanks just setting up in the center and just going to be seeing the forces continue to rally then from ByuN as DRG. Biggest issue is still the worker count, 63 drones. If he'd started to take some of these fights and been able to get up to 70, 80, I mean more 80, but like maybe 75 to 80 workers throughout, again, the rebuild potential is just so different. But the good thing that he has gained from this, if nothing else, is he has gotten base in the bottom left. He's looking to get the base in the 12 o'clock, and those were bases that ByuN was doing a great job of denying until now, so at least he has access to the bases. And maybe that was part of the problem too. I mean, I wonder how many workers he really needed to fully saturate, because obviously if he doesn't have the bases, it doesn't really matter. That was a cute little move from ByuN. He put some of the SCVs into the planetary, jumped them out on the other side, and again, doing his absolute utmost to keep this base alive as long as possible, forcing as many units as he can to fall to that base, even if he can't get units there to defend it. We're going to get some snipes off on an Ultra, but only 2 out of 3 to get the kill, so that will not go down. And DRG sitting 20 workers ahead. Is this eventually going to start being enough from DRG? Army supplies are dead even as we struggle through Curious Minds. It's definitely not been a it's definitely not been a simple affair so far. It looked like it was. It looked like ByuN was just off and away to the races with this game, but not at all. The counterattacks from DRG have really kind of worn ByuN down, and I mean, I wonder if ByuN's the one that needs to maybe focus on getting some economy up and keeping it alive this time. Obviously, without that right side base, it's a base that he's kind of expected to have at this stage. And just not being able to hold that hurts a lot. He is holding that bottom left corner nicely as well. So that at least is staying alive. Obviously, the hold on the watchtower is pretty effective. He's actually going to clean a lot of creep around there, and that's going to make his life a lot easier too. And considering DRG was fighting a lot of this game with so much of a supply deficit, it's cool to see that we've actually got a game that's working out a little bit better this time. coming through. Bioforce Ghosts coming along. Just going to nibble through here and get rid of a couple of creep tumors. Already picking away at those. We've seen the Bioforce pulling back off creep and saving what we can. He went back for that ghost, but the medevac was full. There's a couple of the ghosts do get caught there right away. ByuN pulling back, getting some of the snipes he needs on the ultras. The Bane's now rolling in off creep. There's a little bit of Widow Mine action coming through as well. Oh my god, just at the last Baneling getting a lot of the bio on the far right of that fight. And ByuN cleans up everything that DRG throws at him though, and only loses 5 SCVs. So for once, he's not taking economic damage during one of these engagements. And don't get me wrong, it's not like his economy was brilliant or fully rebuilt or anything, but it does give him a little bit more breathing room coming out of this, that he can actually just say, oh, I've already got reasonable economy. Although these Lings dart by, they find 2 siege tanks into this mineral line, so they might find some more SCVs still. Not a lot of mineral mining going on there, but some gas mining has now been halted. Refineries are going down, and DRG's Lings are having an effective time here at the moment. As the rest of the ghosts, the Bioforce is coming forward, clearing out all those Lings as well. Gonna turn it back out to the center of the map here. Lings are gonna come through. Tanks are gonna be taking some damage as well. This is the issue, right? ByuN is just not able to stabilize apparently against a lot of these Ling run bys. It's not even like he's too drawn out across multiple bases. I could expect this a bit more if he was trying to defend like bottom side, very far right still, but DRG just keeps finding a way in. Still down on army supply right now, DRG. 66 drones. He did take the top right base. He has retaken the 12 o'clock, so again, extra bases to mine from. That's important because if he didn't have those, he could very possibly run into a lot of problems here as time continued to pass by. Liberator gets a few drones. Nice to just slow DRG down a bit as well, even if he has to just think about rebuilding some workers. I mean, that's a pretty big W that you're otherwise not finding. So, yeah, just slowing him down a little bit. And once again, a few Banes is going to find some SCVs. SCVs are trying to split up the best they can. 7 workers dead. ByuN's actually about 30 workers behind. He has been doing pretty good at rebuilding SCVs, but that's just a consistent fight. No planetary on the far right side as this fight, oh my god, really comes down to the Banelings because the army is extremely clumped up. A blinding cloud came down. I think it's absolutely good enough from ByuN. The blinding cloud was great. It was a beautiful idea from DRG. Parasitic bomb was good to get a lot of the medevacs low, but that wasn't the finishing touches. He needed the Banes to connect. The idea is that army's so clumped up that even if you're attacking into the choke points, if you get your Banelings to connect because ByuN runs out of space to run away, then he's going to lose so much. But ByuN just had the firepower to make through those Banes. Widow Mine here at least buys a little bit of time, then goes down. Do we not have an armory anymore? Why was that Widow Mine visible? Unless there's an overseer I didn't see with those Lings. I assume maybe the armory's dead or something to one of the counterattacks. Couldn't be too outrageous of an idea considering the way that this game is playing out, of course. It's, yeah, definitely turning into quite an affair at the moment. Back down to the south. Gonna be seeing Ling, Bane, Ultra. Full transfusions going down. That Ultra's getting healed back up. And this lone SCV coming up here. SCVs continue to go down, Ling's coming through. SCV's having to dodge away a little bit and just having 7 SCVs falling once again. I mean, ByuN actually mining from this base at least does give him a little bit of aid as well. Hits an EMP on a few of the Vipers, not all of them though. From the low ground, can we get some snipes off? That should be some dead Vipers, I believe. He gets the one in the middle, didn't find the one with energy though. So that's still a bit of a threat. He is dropping the bottom left side, denying a base, denying some drones. Overall supplies 145 to 148 still, so still a pretty close game across the board. Here we go with DRG, a much larger fight once again. ByuN trying to utilize the Sim City, give him the time he needs to get rid of the Banelings before they crash into the bio. There's a few Banelings left, going to aim for these ghosts, doesn't get there though. Snipes come down, hit the Ultradus, the Viper won't be enough, and that's GG's. They're both on less than 100 supplies, it wraps up. And it's going to be ByuN that gets the victory, but geez, I mean, had to freaking work for it in a game that looked so... It looked completely fine, honestly, for ByuN for so long, and DRG just made it such a struggle to the tail end.